The cinematic partnership of Powell and Pressburger was one constantly at odds with industry contemporaries. From wartime propaganda to technicolor fairy tales, the Archers films were the touchstone of unconventional British cinema. Perhaps because of this, by the late 1960s, the names of Michael Powell and Emeric Pressburger had all but faded into cinematic obscurity. If it wasn't for the next decade of rediscoveries and restorations, with a little help from Martin Scorsese, present screen culture wouldn't exist as we know it. Scenes depicted in The Simpsons and Captain America, images borrowed for Phil Collins albums and Royal Mail stamps, the production icon immortalised in shoes, and even their sets making all the way to Barbieland. But what exactly did these influences in pop culture mean? And why, after years of obscurity, are we influenced by them now? In the most recognisable work, the grandiose and technicolor set designs have become an intricate part of the Powell and Pressburger legacy. Look at the works of Baz Luhrmann and Matthew Bourne. Both possess the same opulence evoked in The Red Shoes and The Tales of Hoffmann. In Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, and Elvis, Catherine Martin's set designs are reminiscent of Hein Heckroth's work. Whether this is Satine's elephant bedroom, Gatsby's garden, or Elvis's Las Vegas residency, all are stages to perform for their characters, kindred areas to the sets Vicky danced on in The Red Shoes. Alongside his adaptation of The Red Shoes, we see the clear influence Powell and Pressburger's cinema has on Matthew Bourne's stage work. The fairy tale lore often utilised in his narratives, the performative nature in his storytelling, and the opulent stage designs all pay homage to the Archers' films. But with these visual references come Powell and Pressburger's thematic messages, one of love and obsession. Look at Luhrmann's films, each hero suffering the same deadly fate as Vicky. Likewise, in Bourne's Gothic fairy tales, a sinister underbelly is revealed where love and obsession treacherously hang between life and death. In the worlds of Powell and Pressburger, love, obsession and art become uncanny extensions of life, dancing the line between reality and fantasy. Often extravagant designs mark a darker current running underneath. We see this in Luhrmann and Bourne's work, whether it's Christian and Satine dancing above the Paris skyline, or a puppet playing baby Aurora. We also see this in Eiko Ishioka's costume designs for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Designs inspired by historical context, but not grounded in historical realism. Her most famous work, The Musculature Armour of Count Dracula, is evocative of the exaggerated colour designs of a Powell and Pressburger. Something structurally human, but fantastically alien. Innate to the landscape of a Powell and Pressburger production is the pilgrimage, the pastoral journey to awaken a character from religious, class, or military chains. In The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, our hero's journey is reminiscent of the pastoral pilgrimage. With en plein air and gouache art design, Hidemaro Fujibayashi creates a visual link to the memorable landscape backdrops of Black Narcissus. In Coraline, as our hero performs her pastoral journey into the unknown, her world is transformed into a grand theatrical facsimile, similar to the performative world of the Tales of Hoffmann. Whilst Powell and Pressburger's influence on musician Kate Bush is evident in her album The Red Shoes, we also see it in her earlier work. In The Sensual World and its eponymous music video, we see our heroine perform the pastoral journey across woods of all seasons. For Powell and Pressburger, the crossing of borders was an extension of character, of transition, of identity. In doing so, place becomes its own character, shifting and bending under the hero's emotions. This is evident in Breath of the Wild, where the sandbox and open world elements makes the setting its own character. The world building becomes dependent on the gamer's own motivations and in turn, emotions. In the third act of Coraline, we see how intricate the other world truly is and the limits it possesses. As Coraline's relationship with the other mother crumbles, so does the world she created. It echoes the same dismantling of place and power as Powell and Pressburger's The Elusive Pimpernel, where, after Chauvelin is defeated, we see shots of tides literally turning. When Kate Bush's heroine crosses the border from out of the page into the sensual world, it not only embodies the pastoral pilgrimage typified in films like A Canterbury Tale, but also the idea of place as sensuality and female desire evident in Black Narcissus. From set designs to sweeping camera movements, the nature of spectacle was an integral element to a Powell and Pressburger film, more specifically the spectacle on stage. We see it most prominently in the operatic adaptations of The Red Shoes and the Tales of Hoffmann, but it also finds its way into their other films. The Ulysses production in The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, or Bark on the Organ at the end of A Canterbury Tale. In both Paddington 2 and Rye Lane, we see the same Powell and Pressburger spectacle utilised. Phoenix Buchanan's jailhouse rendition of Stephen Sondheim's Rain on the Roof, or Yaz's theatrical retrospection of Her Messy Breakup. But buried deeper is a larger message about the cosmopolitan community. For Powell and Pressburger, the theatre functioned as both a communal space, but also a crucible of emotional turning points. Community for them was something forged by a myriad of different identities. The England that Powell and Pressburger depicted was often a cosmopolitan one, influenced by the Hungarian Pressburgers' forced migration to England following the rise of the Third Reich. In Paddington 2 and Rye Lane, alongside the visual fingerprints of a Powell and Pressburger production, we see the modernisation of their cosmopolitan communities. What theatre was for a 1940s England, we see in modern communal spaces, whether it's karaoke bars, a family barbecue, or even a reformed prison. The Powell and Pressburger cosmopolitan is reintroduced through a 21st century lens. The colourful buoyancy of both films' musical spectacles is grounded in celebration of our multicultural nation. Even the Peruvian Paddington's journey parallels Pressburger's own. Film, theatre, fashion, and even fictional activism, the influence of Powell and Pressburger's cinema is far-reaching. It is perhaps a reflection of how far identity has changed in the modern climate that we've come to embrace and be influenced by their work. Retrospectively, it's no stretch to say that the themes and visuals that Powell and Pressburger endeavoured to include in their productions were ahead of their time. From subversive wartime British films that sympathised with German soldiers, to psychological thrillers that delved into erotic and sexual freedom. It's no surprise then that the audiences of the time, who hadn't yet experienced the liberal unions of post-war Europe or witnessed the sexual revolution of the late 1960s, were often ambivalent to the Archer's films that depicted or often embraced these thematic messages. It's fitting that Powell and Pressburger's own cinematic identity has undergone such a transformation over time. It's hard to determine what modern screen culture would look like without the creative influence of two of cinema's finest, but it's safe to say that visual culture is a more colourful and welcoming place because of them.